Are you ready?
Looking for Johnston now. Speaking of big plays, he's got it, and it's a touchdown.
You think you can tell us what to wear?
TJ Stroud in the end zone. Touchdown, Ibuka.
You think that you're better?
That 15 yards will be assessed on the kickoff.
Break it down!
Welcome to the College Football X with your hosts, John Nelson, John Wilkerson, and Phil Cantor.
Hello, everybody. You have come across the College Football X. Wilkie, thank you. This is the Online Sports Guys College Football Podcast on all of your favorite podcasting items, Stitcher, Spreaker,
Spotify, all the S's.
Apple Play, the Apple Store, Google Play, and all those other fun stuff. And as an added bonus, there's a video version of it too. So some of you might be actually watching us here on YouTube, which would be nice.
That would be nice.
We like that.
Yes. We're here to talk college football because college football during the season, there's an awful lot to talk about. And this week, we got some interesting games, some not so interesting games. Some undefeated teams fell by the wayside, leaving only just a handful really at the top. And we might as well start at the top. The team that I believe right now is what's looking like to be, if not the best, the second best team in college football. And that's Ohio State, who just absolutely rolled a punchless, offensive-less Iowa Hawkeye team, 54-10.
But they landed the first punch, though. That's the irony of this whole thing. Wasn't Iowa up 7-0 in the first quarter?
Yeah, it was a defensive score, too.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, they landed a pretty hard punch in the first round, and that just woke up Ohio State, and they became Ohio State again and just rolled over the Hawkeyes.
Yes.
Yeah, first punch, sometimes you don't want to land that because it ends up waking up the opponent, and it
pisses them off.
Exactly right.
Yeah. CJ Stroud, another huge game, 20 for 30, 286 and 4 touchdowns. For me, and it pains me to say this, but the Buckeyes are clicking on all cylinders. Their defense is strong. They're much, much better than they were last year. And the offense with Stroud and a potpourri of wide receivers, all of whom can go deep, all of whom are game breakers, they're going to be tough to beat here coming down the stretch.
Now, first of all, we don't use words like potpourri when we talk college football. That's too big a word for me.
Yeah.
Potpourri?
Potpourri, exactly.
Okay, so I used up my quota for the day.
You used up your quota of big words, yes.
Yeah.
TJ Stroud, good.
There you go. How about that?
Iowa offense bad. Kirk Ferentz dumb.
Brian Ferentz.
Brian Ferentz
Equal.
Overmatched.
This just Wilkie, it just rings of when Bobby Bowden hired Jeff Bowden. It really does.
Yeah, it does. That's a good point. And that didn't end well as either. But, they got Penn State coming up at Happy Valley. So, that might, if you're looking for a chance where the Buckeyes might stub their toe before they face Michigan, that would be it.
Yeah.
And Penn State is kind of, I like that Penn State team, but they're just not the scary Penn State teams that we're used to. But that's the only place where, if they're not the best, they're on a very short list. Them in Georgia, and again, you're impressed with the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't see them stubbing their toe against a team that beat a hapless Minnesota bunch this past weekend. But yeah, I'm looking at that one obviously, but it might not be as close because I think that if you're Ryan Day, you're going to want to sit there and make a statement heading into that game against the team from the North. And it might be a long day for Penn State when that one pops up on the calendar.
I'm thinking it might be the other one of the other top teams in action, and we won't really spend a whole lot of time on this. The Tennessee Volunteers.
When did T. Martin's University get accredited?
I don't know. They've been around for a while. I didn't know they had a football team, or that they played even remotely close to anywhere near Division I football.
Oh yeah, they're in the OVC. But I was just wondering, T. Martin, that was probably what happened. Is that the athletic department at Tennessee called up T. Martin and is like, dude, is your university accredited yet? We'll play you. We'll give you a payday.
Yeah, I mean that was essentially a scrimmage game. Everybody for Tennessee was out at halftime. It was 52-7.
Yeah.
But I will say this, for the Volunteers, it's a good tune-up. It gives them a chance to get healthy. They've got Kentucky and Georgia coming up in the next 2 weeks, and we're going to see if they're actually legit or if they're just kind of the flavor of the day.
Nah, you beat Alabama like they did. I think they're legit, and you back it up with just mauling the Skyhawks. To me, there's no question they're legit. But this is the part of the schedule that now where the rubber meets the road. Kentucky, we know Kentucky is much better football team than we expected. Mike Stoops has got that program going. We love the way they play, and then obviously Georgia is the one you mark on your calendar, the one you don't miss, the one that CBS will be airing, I'm sure. And so this is where the rubber meets the road for Tennessee. They checked one box and got by Alabama and made third Saturday in October a rivalry again. Now you got two more to check. And, I think Tennessee right now, with the momentum they've got going on and the way Hendon Hooker's playing, I give them a puncher's chance to go 2-0 in that stretch.
Is Jalen Hyatt your Biletnikoff winner?
Oh yeah, right now, yeah. I mean, he looks fantastic, and he's done it on the national stage, on national television too, which lingers.
Yeah, a couple of minor upset games here this week. What the heck got into Ole Miss and LSU this past week?
I don't know.
It was like a good close game for a while, and then all of a sudden, LSU scores 21 unanswered in the fourth quarter. They end up winning 45-20 in a game where Ole Miss entered undefeated and ranked 7th in the country.
And here goes Kiffin to Miami. Make it happen.
Well, Jaden Daniels figured things out to me.
Yeah.
He was fantastic. And Ole Miss just had no answer for what he was doing. I mean, come on, you throw for 249, you rush for 121. He was the man for LSU, and I think that was a good confidence-building win for LSU. Although I still think that they're such an up-and-down football team with Brian Kelly there. I think this for Ole Miss is going to serve as a splash of cold water, and I'm curious to see how they react after this. How they're going to play, because they still got Alabama to play.
Yeah.
And they still got Arkansas to play.
Mm-hmm.
And, will this Ole Miss team respond the way they should, or are they going to fold? Lane Kiffin type teams, when they lose games like this, I wouldn't say they fold, but they tend to not be as aggressive, and it affected them. So I'm just curious to see what Ole Miss team comes out of this.
Yeah, this is the perennial or proverbial, okay, you're pretty good, but you're not nearly as good as you think game.
Yeah. I think that's about right. And yeah, I guess I'll start it right now. Why not? I'll start it. I'm waiting for it to appear on some kind of a Twitter account. Lane Kiffin kicking back with the fruity drink, like the coconut husk with the straw in it, right there on South Beach. Or maybe maybe somebody puts like a Sonny Crockett outfit on him and has him walking down the beach. I'm just waiting for those rumors to start.
No. No, and the reason he's talking about that is because the University of Miami has become a bit on the hapless side.
Did I say that out loud?
To use a news writer term, the Hurricanes fell to Duke and fell in a big way. The early returns with Mario Cristobal at the helm for the Hurricanes have not been so good.
Accurate.
They're 3-4, 1-2 the ACC, but at the same time they've lost their starting quarterback. They've been banged up, but it also is a reminder, just because they hired a big name coach and spent a whole lot of money on him doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be returning to glory immediately.
No, but these aren't his players. We all know what a master recruiter Mario Cristobal is, and the thing is, we did at Alabama, but we didn't have the body of work at Oregon yet to really judge. But he's got the reputation, and he's a former Hurricane, and if all college football teams, Miami has the most active alumni group amongst their players, and they still resonate in that city. Phil, you're from around there, so you kind of know what the U means down in South Florida, because they pretty much stay within the borders of Miami.
I lost your audio there, Will, but I will say that their opinion of where they stand in the college football world in 2022 might be slightly inflated.
Greatly exaggerated.
The Hurricanes have shown flashes over the last few years of being a competitive team, but they can't maintain it consistently. It goes back to something that I've talked about many a times, is just because you're a traditional power in terms of the fact that you've got that history doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good all the time. Yeah. Sometimes it runs in cycles, and Miami went through a really bad down, quote unquote, cycle, and they have yet to recover from it.
Well, you also got the aspect that people have discovered the South Florida as a place to get players. Mm-hmm. You also have FAU and FIU there that you didn't have back in the 80s and 90s. They're actually taking some of the depth away from Miami. And yeah, what has affected the Hurricanes is they've had some really mediocre seasons. And, was the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s kind of aberration of what happened in Miami during that time? Or is it still the program that it was in the 70s, where it was maybe have flashes of good years, but mainly it's kind of hard to get players there because of the academic requirements? I mean, those are that's kind of what when you look at the data. I mean, is that what the Hurricanes are? But look, there's so much talent down there. It's one of the most active alumni groups among former players than any college football program I know. You got one of your own there that came from the Nick Saban's reclamation project. Coach
Rehab Clinic.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not willing to say this was a bad hire or that you can't get it done.
Oh, no.
I think this is just an aberration of because these aren't his players. And so let's look at 3 or 4 years and let's assess them.
John, is that where the challenge lies here in this modern era of college football, where you basically have one, if you're lucky, 2 seasons to start showing a winning record, or you're gone?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The lack of patience, I think, is what you're staring at these days because of, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, and that's where you are right now. And if your business, your ROI is not what you are anticipating or what you want it to be, then you're going to have boosters, alums, firms, etc., with the quick triggers, and you're going to see folks. Marcus Freeman's probably another example at Notre Dame, who is probably going to have a lot of folks staring over his shoulder because pedigree, coach, expectations, anticipations, all those things line up. And if the money brokers and the power brokers are sitting there and they ain't happy, then what do? You change out the CEO, or you sit there and you figure out how to work the the administration and bring in somebody that you absolutely know is going to restore insert program here to its former glory.
You're not saying, John, we're seeing another Tyrone Willingham situation, are you?
I am absolutely.
Okay.
I am absolutely saying that.
All right.
I wouldn't go there just yet.
I'm anticipating something like that. It will be a quicker trigger than normal. And I think that you can say that it is direct proportion to the pedigree of the program, and the expectations are there. Direct proportion to the lack of patience that those in the positions of money, power, and influence have. That's the result.
Plus they have a whole network behind them too, so they need the rating points and the star power.
Yes, or you're going to be on Peacock the entire time.
I want to speak of another coach who has an expectations issue. The expectations in College Station, Texas this year were extraordinarily high, at least on a national level. I didn't think they were going to be as good as most of the writers thought that they were going to be going into the season. And that's being borne out due to the fact that South Carolina hosted the Texas A&M Aggies, and $90 million or whatever coach Jimbo Fisher, and South Carolina beat them well, 30-24. The win moves the Gamecocks to 5-2 and drops A&M, who was expected to compete for the SEC West title, to 3-4 overall, 1-3, and basically out of the SEC.
Well, South Carolina jumped on them from the get-go.
They did.
Yeah,
And you know, A&M attempted to come back, but South Carolina was just a better team on the field that day. And don't discount too that the people were pretty jazzed up because the state fair was going on about a block away.
That's true. The fairgrounds was hopping.
The fairgrounds were hopping. The funnel cakes were plentiful. But
having worked a game there during that week when they had the fair, yeah, saying that they were hopped up is probably not a bad way to put it.
Yes.
But when you watch that game, and with the exception of the Arkansas game, A&M, and the Alabama game where they actually had something to motivate them, but they just look like a flat football team. And I'm just wondering if the messaging by Jimbo Fisher is just lost in all this.
I know what
it's
his
hard.
messaging is.
Well, what I mean by that is he's hard to play for you, especially if you're in the quarterback position.
Yes.
Because you see the lectures all the time. I've talked to several of his former Florida State quarterbacks who say every time they get off the sidelines, it's like going into an elementary school class and having to explain what he saw here and why he did this, and you see it every time on every sideline shot after an offensive possession that ends in a punt or a 3-and-out, or I mean it's in your face, and why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And after a while, it's I'm sure it's grueling and taxing on these quarterbacks.
After
in fact,
a while,
a few of them,
one ear and right back out the other.
Exactly, they get tuned out, and they either, and I remember one particular Florida State quarterback tell me that played for him, it's you're afraid to make a mistake, and that leads to more mistakes. So that's what it looks like to me with Jimbo at Texas A&M, is that they're just so flat, so afraid to make mistakes, and the quarterbacks are just beaten down so much. I mean, he's interchanging them all the time now, and he's got two good ones. So I think we're going to see more of this with Texas A&M this year. 6-6 is looking really hard to reach for the Aggies right now. Boggles my mind how they lost to Arkansas, or they beat Arkansas, but KJ Jefferson did what he did. Now I kind of realize that, but I just see a flat football team that just has no edge.
And you've got young quarterbacks. You mentioned the idea of wanting to walk back on eggshells after a series and then get yelled at. And then you had an injury to Haynes King late in the game, and you had to bring in a true freshman quarterback who was running for his life. And if I was the defensive coordinator, that's what I would have done. I would have dialed up the pressure and made the kid sit there and try to figure things out on the fly. And it just was not a recipe for any kind of comeback success. And yet, Wilkie, your point is the one here that I think you've got to look at. Texas A&M has to steal a win someplace to get to bowl eligibility. Sorry, did I laugh out loud?
No, you did.
You did.
But, you
And
know, for someone that's been
we were all rubbing our eyes.
and for someone who's a child of the Southwest Conference, I mean, this is nothing new at Texas A&M. I mean, they've always wanted to be that elite program. And once, you know, they've had flashes of it, and then they dial back down to mediocrity or cheating happens. I mean, see Jackie Sherrill. So, I mean, it's just, for me, it's par for the course for Texas A&M. They want to talk big, they want to spend big, and hey, what they've done with Kyle Field and the facilities is phenomenal. But it's just not getting to the point where they're consistently up there with the Alabamas of the world in the SEC East. I mean, they're not even they're supposed to be challenging them every year, and it's just not happening. But to me, it's just par for the course for that program.
If you build a fantastically glass tall structure, if you're a business, you build an amazing skyscraper to sit there as your crowning glory to how important you think you are in the world landscape, yet you don't have every office filled, you've got bad personnel, you've got CEOs that don't know how to run the company. That's going to be a real shiny building, but it's going to be an empty business. And I think that that's what you've got right now. And it wouldn't surprise me if the firm was trying to figure out a way to get rid of $90 million in oil money, or $90 million in oil, so they could get the money to try and find a way to get Jimbo out the door.
It doesn't matter. I mean, he's going to have a very huge bank account no matter what he does, whether he wins at Texas A&M or they show him the door. I mean, he can buy a ranch with the money he's going to get, and just it's retire and do nothing, and go turkey hunting every year.
Yeah, the analogy John made, I was going to say, you can have all the shiny facilities in the world, but if you don't have the right person running the program that operates inside of it, it doesn't really matter.
Nope.
It doesn't make a bit of difference. Want to go through one more game here before we go on to some other things. The Pac-12 has been pretty competitive this season.
Well, so would you use that word, or would you use the word mediocre?
I would use competitive.
Okay.
I mean, UCLA entered their game this past weekend against Oregon undefeated. Oregon's 6-1. Yeah, they got the doors beat off of them the first week against Georgia, but they've looked pretty good since then.
Good Bo Nix, yes.
Washington's not reclaimed their past glory, but they've shown some signs of life. USC's been very good this year. And right now, again, Oregon's in the driver's seat. We all questioned after week one how legit they were with John's pal Bo Nix at quarterback. And if Dan Lanning was up to the task, he made some adjustments. Nix threw 5 touchdown passes against UCLA this week. That's not bad, even for him.
Go for it, Will.
No, it's not. But and UCLA is not, I would say, an elite defense.
No.
But Dan Lanning has really evolved over the years with his offense, and Oregon just, Bo Nix has settled down now. I don't know if he's matured. John, you could probably answer that more than I can, because you watched him more at Auburn than I did.
Yeah.
But I think the change of scenery has done well for him.
Yeah, I could agree.
He doesn't have the shadow of his dad or his grandfather anymore.
Yeah.
And I think we saw the culmination of that against UCLA. And, Oregon's got some talent, and they've always had some talent. And UCLA, that's an offensive team, but the Oregon defense, I thought, played well against what I saw against UCLA. I thought they played really well. So to me, I think Bo Nix, this was kind of the marker to where Bo Nix is going to go now with Oregon as he plays his last few games with the Ducks.
7 different receivers caught passes from Bo Nix. Troy Franklin was 8 for 132 and 2. And, I still think, when you look at Bo Nix, you still have those moments where he tries to turn himself into Fran Tarkenton. And
Good point.
And that's when he's trying too hard. But I think, Wilkie, to your point, your original point, I think that the change of scenery was something that he totally needed to get away from everything that has been pushed upon him since he was a child in the southeastern United States. And I think that going to the other end of the country sometimes does folks good when it comes to, hey, I want to go to college. That's a normal person. I want to go all the way to the other end of the planet. And so Bo Nix has done that so far. See how he continues here with the remainder of the season. But I know that, Phil, we were talking in the pre-production meeting about weird-ish that had gone on this past weekend. And so I will give you my one piece of weird-ish that happened in the Pac-10, 12, 14. You had a game that had 29 total points in it. You had one team that lost, scored 2 touchdowns. You had a team that won, kicked 5 field goals. A 15-14 barn burner in the Pac-10, 12, 14 for 5 field goals got you a win between 2 really bad football teams with Stanford and Arizona.
Yeah, you stole mine. Because that game should have been played in 1934. That's the kind of feel it had.
Leather helmets and the whole deal, huh?
Yeah, well, kicking the field goals too.
That too.
I'm sure they were straight on kickers.
Yeah, no doubt. Where's Mark Mosley when you need him with that boot?
The square toe.
Yes, exactly.
Tom Dempsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guys, we got to talk about, we've been talking off and on this season about hot seats and coaches and in some peril.
Simple fish.
We got a coach that got the axe already this weekend. Charlotte has fired Will Healy.
Yeah.
After a very, very rough start to this season. Healy, who made the leap from Austin Peay to Charlotte, where he had some success at the P, which is not easy to do.
Well, it's, hey, a lot of folks on this planet want to have success with P. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, thank you very little. You've been waiting for that one.
A couple seconds.
Healy had some not bad teams at Charlotte. I don't know what the explanation or the expectation or plateau expectations were there for him. But the 49ers are now looking for a new guy to run the program.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a very difficult place for a coach to go and have some success right now. I know they're changing conferences, but you're also going to a university that's in a city that has an NFL team there. You're a group of 5, and you're in an area of the country where college basketball, is more the focus, especially at Charlotte, than college football. So your task at hand is to make college football relevant in a city where really college football is an occasional game with North Carolina and North Carolina State, or South Carolina and Clemson playing at the stadium there, the downtown stadium, in some kind of neutral site game. It's going to be hard to find that fan base that'll support you. So I think there's some challenges to whoever takes that job with the 49ers, because I think it's kind of an uphill battle for somebody who takes that job with all the parameters involved.
You're looking at a team at 1-7. You lose your opener to FAU, and FAU they're 3-5, and they're a couple of steps above you in Conference USA. You lose to William and Mary, get blown out by Maryland. You beat Georgia State, which was a horrible loss for Sean Elliott and the Panthers, and it was a game that, frankly, Georgia State should have won. Lose big to South Carolina. Lose big at home to UTEP. UTEP is a 500 team. UAB. Once again, they're a 500 team because of their non-conference schedule. You lost to them, and then you had a 15-0 lead against FIU. Then you give up 34 points in a row and lose that one. So in the games that you've lost, you have not been competitive by the 60th minute. The one game you won was probably more the errors of the other guy than it was your own successes that created the shootout that you won by 1 point. It is going to be a tall order for anyone who wants to go in there. And we knew that from all the time that we've covered FCS football, the kind of coach that Will Healy, the atmosphere he created, the success he created at Austin Peay, wanted the challenge of Charlotte, and he was summarily shown the door after a 1-7 start, where they frankly have not been on the scoreboard looking all that good after 60 minutes.
I want to bring up one other thing here before we hit the break. And I don't know if you guys have been following this. Some controversy surrounding the University of Alabama after their loss to Tennessee. And I don't know if you guys saw the video when the fans stormed the field. There was chaos everywhere. And Alabama wide receiver Jermaine Burton was shown on a video either elbowing, brushing up against, bumping, colliding with, forcing himself to knock over. It depends on, I guess, who you ask as to what description you would use for that video.
Yeah.
And there's some people giving some heat to Nick Saban because he didn't suspend Burton, or he didn't really take any, at least outward disciplinary action against him. Your thoughts? Because that's a chaotic, I don't know if, for those of you at home, it's hard to explain just how messy and ugly and chaotic it gets on a field when the fans storm the field.
The video itself, the one that made the rounds most than everything else, is very, very Zapruder-ish. That's your Google search for today, kids. It was blown up and digitized, and the one thing that we don't know here is the context of the situation.
And that was Saban's argument. He said, without seeing the whole thing, you can't really judge. But a lot of people did judge.
Yeah. And that's the key here for me in all of this, Wilkie, is that we don't have proper context. We don't have all the information. We don't have every single aspect and notion of what went down in a very, very it was an emotional situation in Knoxville after the win.
And all he's trying to do is get off the field, and he's got massive people around him from the enemy, getting in his face, and he's getting as much protection as he can. But those things, unless you've been in a crowd like that, and I think the three of us have been on a football field where it's been stormed, you just got people running around, and it's craziness and mayhem.
Yeah, you're just trying
no control, and you're just trying to get out of the situation as quickly as you can, finding a state trooper to kind of walk around with, just to get some kind of semblance of normalcy. But I think Nick Saban handled it the best way he knew how to do it, and that's about all I can say about it.
It's a tough call, and I'm not defending if Burton went after or tried to actually go out of his way to injure the girl, then yeah, maybe you should have there should be some repercussions for it, but how do you prove that?
That's
exactly
key here.
Seeing an out of context video doesn't do that. And it also goes back to what we just talked about, which is the bigger picture, and that's the fans storming the field.
Mm-hmm.
You can say, oh, look, they're celebrating. It's a historic thing. But for people sitting at home watching on television, or the guys talking about it up in the play-by-play booth, you can't envision how scary that is if you're on the field.
Yeah.
And you're a neutral party, or you're not with the home team.
Yeah, you're just trying to find the tunnel and get out.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you got people just jumping up and down, not really paying attention to what's going on, and it's just it's ripe for something like that to happen. And like I say, I've been in them before, and it's just not fun.
I had some friends, non-sports fan friends, like, why did they get fined for that? Because you're not supposed to do it.
Yeah, unless you're Clemson.
And to my knowledge, I think the SEC is the only conference that does fine for those kind of things. And the thing is, I mean, these things are encouraged by the television networks.
Yeah.
The court storming and the field storming and the tearing down the goalposts. Because I mean, how long did CBS linger on that shot, that overhead shot of Nealon and the massive orange on the field and carrying the goalpost to the Tennessee River to dump?
A friend of mine got caught in the middle of that part. Bob Kuzek, who's a sports photographer at News Channel 5 in Nashville, found himself somehow in between the goalposts as they were being hauled off the field, and couldn't quite get himself underneath the crossbar as it crossed in front of him and knocked him on his butt. And Kuz said the only thing that got him out of there was a couple people saw him and pulled him up, and he was able to scramble off the field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll leave it on that deep thought. We've talked for about a half hour or so here in the first block of the X. When we come back in the second half of the show, we're going to look ahead to the upcoming week where we've got some pretty big games going as we kind of start teetering into the month of November and kind of trying to sort out who's really going to be that team for their conference and who's got a chance at making the playoffs. All that and more when we return for the second half of the College Football X. You are listening to the OSG Sports Podcasting Network. Please like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe.
Please like and subscribe.
Warning. Orthopedic surgeons are seeing an increase in overuse injuries when young athletes perform the same repetitive stressful motions over and over. Pitching, tennis, weight training, even long swimming workouts can cause overuse trauma that may require surgery. If your kids play and train hard, visit orthoinfo.org or stopsportsinjuries.org. A message from the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons and the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine.
He wanted to be known for doing his best.
Sure, right.
His best made him Major League Baseball's most valuable player.
Strike two.
He played in 6 World Series and was elected to the Hall of Fame. Although an honest man, he was best at stealing home. But the best quality of Jackie Robinson's life was his character. So here's to you, Mr. Robinson. Thanks for passing it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory.
Hey, congratulations, everybody. You make it to the second half of the College Football X. On the OSG Sports Podcasting Network, I am OSG Phil. He is OSG Nelson, and he is OSG Wilkie. We are three of several online sports guys. And Brother Marty is not with us this week because
he's busy, man. He's got National Football League stuff to think through.
Yeah, I mean, we lost the football face-off to the NFL Cleveland Browns, believe it or not.
Yeah, the Cowboys are playing right now, but I'm here.
That's in the
multi-screen experience. That's how this rolls.
Yes. Yes. Thankfully, my Dolphins play tonight as we record this on a Sunday afternoon, so I can watch that hopefully by the time I'm done with this until I have to go to bed because I have to be at work at 5 o'clock in the morning tomorrow.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes.
On short notice, but that's a whole other story, and we won't get into that. Guys, next week we got a whole boatload of college football on Halloween. Halloween weekend, so to speak, October 29th. That Saturday kicks off the first game of the day, literally, is Ohio State at Penn State. You know it's going to be raucous in Happy Valley. Just wanted to say that. Now I've used 2 big words.
Raucous and potent.
Wilkie. 2 of them.
Well, you get one per segment.
Okay, there you go.
I'm a virtual vocabularian.
It's like a dictionary mulligan. He gets one use.
Dictionary mulligan.
Yeah, one per segment.
I am a vocabularian, and I'm going to stick to that.
No, you just went over it because you just went over your quota, sir. Vocabularian? What the hell is that?
Somebody who uses their vocabulary, I believe.
I guess so. All right. So
there needs to be a definition of that on the screen.
Exactly. Brawl. TOS.
And if you qualify.
Yeah, TOSU is a favorite of 14.5. I think they cover that, no problem.
Yeah, Penn State's an improved team. I don't know necessarily that they're Ohio State level improved.
Yeah. Ohio State to me just looks like they're a well-oiled machine. Just wait till they get to Michigan.
133 of 190, 2,023 yards and 28 touchdowns for C.J. Stroud.
And that's after 7 games.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say he's going to New York for an invite for a certain stiff arm trophy?
I believe so.
If one was to be of the betting variety or sort, yeah, I think that's a pretty safe play.
Safe.
There you go.
Yep, safe play.
The other big game of the day, well, actually, there's several of them. One that intrigues me here as I look down the list, besides Florida, Georgia, which we'll get into in just a second, Oklahoma State at Kansas State.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Cowboys, with a big game last week.
They finished your sentence.
They beat Texas.
Yeah.
Came back to beat Texas. Spencer Sanders.
I don't know why I kept thinking of TCU, but yes, they beat Texas in a shootout. And right now they're kind of a little bit in the driver's seat here as we get through the season in the Big 12. Is this a matchup for them, or is Adrian Martinez got something for them when they take the drive into Manhattan?
Depends if he applied for his USAA card yet.
Well, Kansas State's going to be a little ticked because they didn't get the job done against TCU, which was a fantastic game. TCU right now looks to be the class of the Big 12. I didn't think I was going to say that this year, but Sonny Dykes, I almost called him by his father's name. Sonny Dykes has done wonderful things at TCU, but this game is kind of to see who that opponent's going to be in the Big 12 title game. And, I think Oklahoma State's loss to TCU last week really woke them up. And then the way Texas handled them, especially spacing on the running back's name for Texas right now, Bijan Robinson, running through that defense in the first half. Again, alarms went off in the locker room at halftime, and they responded. The Cowboys responded. And so I think they're going to carry that momentum. And I just think they've got too much talent for Kansas State. Kansas State is very much what they've been in the past, even back when Bill Snyder. They're a grinded out football team. They grind you down. But I just think Oklahoma State's got too much depth and too much talent for the Wildcats.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll take the flip side on it. I just think that if Kansas State is clinical in their chances and Vaughn has a solid day, and I think it's going to have to be predicated on the running game and not necessarily Adrian Martinez. I think that if you keep that offense off the field and you're clinical with your chances and you limit your turnovers, I think you've got a chance. And so I'll take the flip side of that argument and say that Kansas State wins a tight one.
Okay. Moving along down to Jacksonville, where the annual Georgia-Florida game, the game formerly known as the world's largest.
It's still the world's largest.
It's still the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're still going to be partying at St. Simon's Island. They're still going to be blind drunk on the landing. Yeah, all the traditions of the Georgia-Florida game will be there. We just can't say it. I don't get it.
Yes, and again, Kirby Smart wants to move to a home-and-home series, unfortunately.
Well, but I mean, they said the same thing about Alabama and Auburn, so I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
But right now, Georgia's an early 22.5, and they probably cover it, and it won't be pretty.
No, Florida just, even though they got off to a good start this season with a nice win over a very good Utah team, has not looked the part since then.
Yeah. And how many times are we going to hear Larry Munson's call of Lindsey Scott and Buck Bellew?
All week by every television station in both markets, Jacksonville and Atlanta. And even more so in the ones in Savannah and Tallahassee and the ones that are close by. So in Savannah, you'll hear it. Macon, you'll hear it. Columbus, you'll hear it. Atlanta, you'll hear it. Jacksonville, you'll hear it. So the over-under for me, probably about 10.5.
Yeah. I would say 75% of Georgia fans can recite that call from memory.
Mm-hmm. As you should. Absolutely should.
And there are always variables in that game. Georgia has a tendency to underperform, but I just can't see that happening. Not this time.
Even if they underperform, they win by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. This would have to be something catastrophic for Georgia not to win this game. But like I said, I think they cover that 22.5. I think they do. I think Kirby Smart wants to send a message.
Another intriguing matchup featuring SEC teams this coming up weekend. Kentucky travels to down I-75 to Knoxville, take on the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee has looked really, really good. Kentucky has had their moments, but they've been injured, and their offensive line has been a huge question mark for them this season, trying to protect Will Levis. I think Tennessee probably wins this game, as long as they're not looking ahead to next week for their trip down to Athens to play the Georgia Bulldogs. But I wouldn't rule out a Kentucky win here either. Wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I think there's going to be times where Kentucky's going to make Tennessee very nervous, especially the fans in Neyland.
Yeah.
But Tennessee's just got too many weapons. I think their team speed is going to be a huge problem for Kentucky. Although Kentucky always does a great job of scheming on defense, but that can only get you so far if your offense just is. Again, if your quarterback's running for his life. So Tennessee's going to win this one probably by 2 touchdowns or more, just simply because they're on a roll right now. Had they had some hiccups against UT Martin, I would be concerned, but I'm not concerned. They just continued the momentum from the Alabama game. That's going to continue in the Kentucky game, and they're not going to look ahead to Georgia. I mean, I don't think that coaching staff will allow that to happen.
Number right now is 2 touchdowns. I think Tennessee covers it. Wilkie, you were spot on right there with your thought. I think it's at least 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Ordinarily, this would be a big game coming into the season. I don't know that it's such a big game now. Michigan travels to Ann Arbor to take on the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan State has not performed particularly good at all this season.
No.
The Wolverines have looked extremely good and well-balanced. I think this is a warm-up game as opposed to a rivalry game.
Yeah, nighttime kick, 21.5 your early number. It probably gets there, but it might get there late. I think that Michigan covers 21.5.
Again, rivalry games make me very nervous. However, this game's in Ann Arbor. Even though the Spartans will be fired up, and it just hasn't been the kind of year Mel Tucker wanted. But I think it'll be close for a little while, but Michigan will pull away and win this one rather handily.
Any other games that jump off the board here to you guys? I think we've covered the ones that look interesting, at least on paper.
What about you in the ACC, Wilkie?
Well, I really like the matchup at whatever dome they call it now at Syracuse. I think you told me last week.
JMA Wireless Dome, or
yeah, Notre Dame and Syracuse. Syracuse looked great for a half last week against Clemson. We'll say last week. Saturday. And then their offense just went away, and Clemson came back when they made the quarterback change. So Notre Dame is mediocre at best. And I think this is a get-well game for Syracuse because they want to maintain that one game, stay within a game of Clemson, although this is not a conference game, but they want to stay within that one-game cushion in case Clemson stubs their toe on down the line, or maybe a couple of times, because they want to stay within that parameters of winning an ACC title. And I think this is going to be a get-well game for Syracuse, but they got to do it for 4 quarters.
For me, I will go to 2 teams that we talked about earlier in the show. Ole Miss at Texas A&M, 7:30 primetime game there. How does Ole Miss respond to getting blown out in the final 3 quarters of the game against LSU? And how does Texas A&M respond? Which freshman quarterback is going to be the the sacrificial lamb going up against that defense. Right now, Ole Miss is a 3-point favorite, so the juice box purveyors think that it's pretty much a push. I think that Ole Miss gets it done. I think the offense for Texas A&M is a need, and I think it's a bit of a bounce back from Ole Miss. And A&M goes to 3-5. 3-5 Texas A&M. That's what I'm looking at. With that one, let me scan quickly. And then, by the way, your late game, Wyoming and Hawaii, Big Island right now. Wyoming 5-3, Hawaii at 2-6, and we put that there just as a public service as the last game of the night.
The quote-unquote sign-off game.
Yes.
Guys, I think we've covered pretty much all the bases here this week. We've talked about what happened this past weekend. We reviewed those games. We looked a little bit ahead and covered some ground with the coaching carousel.
Covering the bases in a football show.
Yeah, I think that kind of does what it is what it makes us.
At Southern and Jackson State. Great move by the four-letter to have game day go for that rivalry. It was great to catch up with Dave Garner and Sam Crenshaw about the battle for the Peach Basket last week on that was a fun one. And I think this week it might be chasing after Albany and Stony Brook. So keep your ears peeled for that as part of the rivalry series.
And for those of you who don't know what John's talking about, each week as a supplement to this show, we talk rivalry games with some of the people involved, some of the people that know about what's going on. You can find that on our Spreaker page. You can find that on pretty much the same places, all the podcasting outlets that you can find this. Take a look, listen, tune it in.
Yes.
Guys, it's time to say goodbye now because I've run out of things to say.
Goodbye now. Please like and subscribe.
Goodbye now. Everybody have a good week. We're coming to the end of October to the beginning of November where we're going to get to find out who really is going to be playing for the college football playoff.
Not Texas A&M, I'll tell you that right now.
So for OSG Nelson, for OSG Wilkie, I am OSG Phil. We are the Online Sports Guys. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We hopefully will see you again next week. Bye.
Like and subscribe.
What they said.